Global News spoke with vaccine-injured people and former workers across the country who say that program is chaos.
Disruptive.
Weird thing to happen. It's been kept under wraps for so long. They've been trying to hide it for years now. But I think now, with so many cases, with so many tales of after effects coming post-pandemic, coming after the lockdowns, after the mandates, they can't hide it anymore. The mainstream media can't hide the fact that there is a crisis now of individuals who were healthy at the beginning, got forced into the jabs, and now there's an unbelievable crisis of people with worse and severe side effects that the mainstream media did not pay attention to until recently. So you remember in particular this case, this woman, Kayla Pollock, we discussed at length on this channel. She is the single mother from Bradford, West Gwillimbury, healthy individual, single mom, works in education, and the school district mandated her to get the jab. And she got it, and she got paralyzed. And they've been doing a cover-up for years. They've been covering up this story for years. They wouldn't say this in the mainstream media. They wouldn't bring national attention to this. We talked about it extensively on this channel, but nothing got revealed. And it was such a scandal that even the doctors that were treating her post-pandemic and post after the shot, realizing that she was paralyzed, the doctors lied to her right in front of her face, lied to her, saying that she wasn't paralyzed, that she was making it up, that they were going to send her to a therapist. But she reveals, big news, my story and select few have officially been picked up by Global National. Please follow and reshare this post for more updates. The chief investigative correspondent, an award-winning journalist with 3 national newspaper awards, 6 Canadian Association of Journalists awards, and credentials as a certified fraud examiner, and his work partner have taken my case to the national spotlight. This is huge for every Canadian harmed by the COVID vaccine and ignored by the very system that promised to protect us. I've spent 3 years paralyzed, fighting for justice, answers, and support after being medically confirmed to have vaccine-induced transverse myelitis from the Moderna shot. I'm still here. I'm waiting for the Vaccine Injury Support Program to even collect my full medical records, the ones they keep losing. This coverage matters. Our voices are being heard all the way to the House of Commons. The health minister has responded. This is the momentum we need. I cannot, however, post this mainstream media confirmation to Facebook or Instagram because we have a publication ban on Canadian news being posted online. And not only that, but I'm pretty sure even still to this day, Facebook, Instagram, and social media sites still have a ban on posting controversial COVID material. Remember, I got my channel completely deleted off of YouTube for highlighting medical journals and scientists and doctors who were examining the coronavirus and were giving a second opinion. And that's all I was doing, was giving a second opinion. But they found it so controversial that they shut down and eliminated my entire channel. And I had to start from scratch all over again. So I think that's also a factor, with or without the C11 or C18 ban. So she says, I took the story to independent media, well-known podcasters with medical degrees like Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, Alex Jones, Dr. Drew, Viva Fry, Dr. Mallory Talley Bowden, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Mark, so on and so forth. It was all censored as misinformation. And now, with the publication ban, I dug in deep and I brought the media in on the left and the right. This is the irony that is now hidden unless you go to Global National and type it in or watch it live. Part 1 is being aired. Keep watching. Message me for more private links. So this is pretty incredible. I mean, it's late. It's better late than never. But it's really remarkable that now, finally, after everyone's pretty much aware of this situation, everyone's pretty much aware that there are harmful side effects to the jabs, and there continues to be harmful side effects, even though they're still telling you that you should go out and get your, 11th or 12th booster, because COVID is anywhere at any time. It's like a terrorist. They know how harmful. They know how harmful the side effects are, and people are skeptical. People are waking up to this. People are researching. They're doing their own research. Remember how bad it was to read into things? Now people are awakened to this. So this is pretty incredible. This is pretty incredible. Even though we're, years late on the situation, it's better late than never. So here, I pulled this up. This is the Global National segment where they covered about the Vaccine Injury Support Program. So the Canadian government is now proposing, because there's that many cases out there within our country, to have a program dedicated to understanding, doing the research, and compensating people like Caleb Pollock and like many others who have severe injuries and are no longer allowed to work, no longer can, have an income and support their family. So watch how Global National covered this.
As we begin tonight with troubling revelations about a government program meant to protect the unfortunate few legitimately injured by vaccines. The Vaccine Injury Support Program was created during the pandemic to compensate people who suffered serious and permanent side effects. But a Global News investigation reveals 4 years later, only a fraction of the millions in taxpayer dollars funding that program is reaching those in need. Here's Carolyn Jarvis with part one of a 3-part series.
I have not.
Just right off the bat, you notice how they said, there's not enough taxpayer money. It's taxpayer money. It's the responsibility of us who got mandated to take this jab to pay off the people injured because the government mandated everybody to take this jab. That's kind of funny. Wouldn't it be the responsibility of the vaccine producers, the cartel, to paraphrase what Woody Harrelson said on Saturday Night Live, the cartel that got together, the gangs that got together to manufacture? No, they're not held responsible. But it's us. It's taxpayer citizens that are already paying an extraordinary amount of taxes to reimburse people injured by a vaccine mandated by an authoritarian government. I just wanted to put that out there. I find that incredible that that's the case. But here's the rest of the story.
Gone public ever, and not very many people even know the cause of Stephen's death, because I do not want to be the poster child for the anti-vax movement.
Stephen McDougall was 45, a father of 2 with an entire life ahead when he died.
Myopericarditis post-COVID vaccine.
His widow, Kimberly, was told a new federal program would help people financially if they were seriously and permanently injured. The Vaccine Injury Support Program, or VISP.
It's like a lottery, right? You never think it's going to be you.
The government hired an accounting and consulting firm, Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton, now called Oxaro, and paid them tens of millions of dollars to run VISP. But Global News spoke with vaccine-injured people and former workers across the country who say that program is chaos. Unskilled staff running a system unequipped to handle thousands of claims, leaving the injured waiting months, sometimes years, for help.
It got to a point where everything was a battle.
After 11 months, VISP approved Kimberly's claim and paid a death benefit worth roughly 3 years of Stephen's former salary, the maximum amount allowed by the Public Health Agency of Canada. And while VISP claims it will continue to support you for as long as needed, for Kimberly and her children, that meant only offering to pay for enough therapy to cover weekly sessions for a little over 3 months.
And then my kids are supposed to be fine. I'm supposed to be fine.
When COVID hit, Canada was the only G7 country without a vaccine injury support program.
We kept telling people, you don't want to stand these things up.
Canada, do you hear that? Canada is the only country out of the G7 that didn't have a vaccine injury support program. Isn't that kind of interesting? It's almost like they were told and paid off by the cartel, by Pfizer, by Moderna, by AstraZeneca. And if you read RFK Jr.'s book about Fauci and Bill Gates and many of the other criminal syndicates involved in this, the Canadian government and Canadian institutions were deeply corrupted in this. Deeply. That's why they have such horrible staff running this program. And why it's such a joke. Oh, look at us. We're getting at the bottom of this. Let's get the worst of the worst people, unqualified, unskilled professionals, to exacerbate this and keep it, keep it as long as possible that people suffer. But we're trying to do something about it. Look like we're doing something about it instead of actually holding the people accountable, responsible for this heinous act, and getting reimbursement from the worst of the worst. Like, why isn't Pfizer being prosecuted and forced to pay a fine that would fund this? They have billions of dollars. They made billions of dollars off of us. We were the lab rats. We were the guinea pigs. Why aren't they paying into this? Why is it Moderna? Why isn't it AstraZeneca? Why is Theresa Tam getting the Order of Canada and not being prosecuted herself? Like, it is just astonishing. It's astonishing that even when they look like they're doing good, it's not good. Even when it looks like they're trying to, fix their mess and, I feel bad for these individuals because there's so many cases now, they still won't do anything about it. They still won't do anything about it. Because big pharmaceuticals run the world. Just like oil tycoons, just like corrupt bankers, just like the WEF. They're the ones that occupy and control countries. But here's some more of this.
Right in the middle of an emergency.
But during a pandemic,
we're creating a federal support program.
That's exactly what happened.
What we saw from global experiences, things don't go great.
And they didn't.
Thank you for contacting the Vaccine Injury Support Program.
Shannon DuPont's claim was approved.
To speak to a dedicated case manager.
And yet 4 years later, she's still battling VISP. With each of her 3 COVID shots, Shannon's health got worse. Vision loss, an autoimmune disorder, Bell's palsy.
My face literally looked like it was melting off on one side.
Unable to work, VISP said it would pay for her lost income and some of her injuries.
I'm on case manager number 9.
But error after error, she says.
They seem to lose everything and then you start all over from scratch.
Has left her $180,000 short.
I definitely cashed out every investment I had. I actually remortgaged my house.
Since 2021, the federal government has paid Oxaro $50.6 million to run VISP. Only a third of that, $16.9 million, has reached the injured.
So where's the money going?
In an email, Oxaro said it aims to provide a process that ensures all cases are treated fairly and with the same care, respect, and due diligence. It says its invoices reflect actual costs, reviewed and approved by the Public Health Agency of Canada. As for its timelines, it says that depends on each claim's nature and complexity. Stephen McDougall's widow says he would have still believed in science, although she no longer believes the government is there to help.
They promised to take care of us. They didn't fulfill their promise.
So there you go. And they said that a lot of these people, and look, I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm not, don't try and troll me on that. But hey, I was one of these people that got, soaked into, because I didn't know at the time. I didn't know what was going on. It was such a mystery. It was, unknowable at the time it happened. I got 2 Pfizers. I got vaccine injured. I have with my shoulder. But just the disparity of this, just the disgusting part of this is the Canadian government is throwing money at a program that's poorly managed, poorly done, and glorifying it to say, like, we're helping these people when it's barely doing anything. It's money laundering at this point. It's money laundering to employ a bunch of the most unqualified, unskilled individuals to handle these cases, pretend to give, a couple pennies here and there to individuals. Why did I say pennies? They don't even make pennies anymore. Couple bucks here and there. And it's not doing anything. It's not really doing anything. And if Global News or CTV or City News or any of these, if they actually had the moxie to do journalistic integrity, where's the pressure on the vaccine makers? Where's the pressure on the Canadian government that mandated people on this? Where was the pressure on all this? Because let's not forget, this is the same network, Global News, the same network that fired Anita Krishna in BC because being a news director for 20 years and then having the audacity to question the COVID narrative was apparently enough to get her fired. Just for asking simple questions. Just for asking, hey, maybe we should interview some doctors so we can get some second or third opinions. That's what you kind of do in the news industry. So I'm happy in the fact that this is being addressed now. That now your, parents or grandparents that sit and watch mainstream media that suck into the propaganda are finally being exposed to this. But it's very little, and it's too late. Because now there's more and more cases as we're speaking, as they're finally getting exposure to this, there's more and more cases being exposed on social media and people directly getting involved in this, and they're not doing anything about it. The government's barely doing anything about it because they're just soaked into the big pharmaceutical gang. So here, this is the official from their website. This is from Global News. This is the official article. Canada set up a $50 million vaccine injury program. Those harms said it's failing. So I'm not going to read through it because we just saw the video there, but you can check it out for yourself. And it's just so funny. $50 million from taxpayers. Like, you would think that would come out of the pockets of the pharmaceutical industry. The ones that lied to you. The ones that hid all this data. The ones that knew there was harmful side effects. And doctors and clinicians and physicians and medical scientists have pointed this out many times before, and they got immediately thrown under the bus. This is such a huge scandal. Such a huge scandal. And this is why I keep bringing this to detail, because I know many of my friends, I know many people are like, why do you keep talking about COVID? It's over. It's done with. Not for the people that got injured. Not for the people that are paralyzed, can't make a living, and can't support their family and are doomed. It's not over for them. So it's not over for me to expose all this detail. And it's one of the biggest scandals. I would say one of the biggest scandals in my generation. So on top of that, and I wanted to show this because it ties into this. So Zero Hedge says CDC advisors, so in the United States, CDC advisors vote to recommend removal of mercury from influenza vaccines. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty good. I don't hear talks about this in Canada. And maybe it's because, that's an American thing and we can't do anything like the Americans, even when the Americans are right about this. They still won't do it because it's an American thing. And, elbows up. We can't be influenced by American culture. I actually heard someone say that, and I laughed out loud because they were saying it while in a Walmart, for one thing, which is an American company. And, given our Canadian culture, yes, it's losing momentum. Yes, it's being diluted with other cultures and whatnot. But Canadians watch American media. Canadians are influenced. We buy the same products as America. It may differ in ingredients, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So that's why I find it so laughable. But to this, says the Advisory Committee on Influenza Practices, let me make this a bit bigger, in a series of votes, reaffirmed the existing recommendation that virtually all individuals aged at least 6 months of age receive an annual influenza shot. The panel further advised, though, that individuals only receive thimerosal-free vaccines. About 95% of influenza vaccines administered in the United States in late 2024 and early 2025 are free of that thing, according to the Food and Drug Administration. Dr. Tracy Hong, an FDA official, told the committee that there appeared to be enough influenza vaccines doses without that for the upcoming virus season, which runs in the fall to the winter. A spokesperson for Sanofi told the Epoch Times in an email, "We acknowledge the recommendation of the new ACIP. We are now await the decision by the CDC on the path forward. We will have significant supply of flu vaccine to support customer preference for the season." Seqirus, which also produces influenza vaccines with the mercury, has not responded to requests for comment. ACIP provides advice to the CDC's director, who typically adopts the recommendations. The CDC has no acting director listed on its website. President Donald Trump's nominee for the post, Susan Marnes, is being considered by the Senate. The CDC is a parent agency. The Department of Health and Human Services did not respond to requests for comment. So that's pretty good that we're getting harmful ingredients out of these vaccines, these toxins that are not beneficial to human health. And there's been studies after study after study. I'm not a medical advisor, so don't take my word on it. Go look at Dr. John Campbell. Go look at Dr. Peter McCullough. Go look at Dr. Robert Malone. Go look at other people. Go look at Dr. Pierre Corey. And examine the research for yourself. And even just in this case, here's an example of this. This is on Steve Bannon's show, this is the woman in charge of the Children's Health Defense. This is Mary Holland, with a medical background. And she states that Secretary Kennedy just cleaned the house at the CDC, bringing in scientists open to real debate. They voted to end mercury in flu shots, a huge win decades in the making. This is a new era. The entire vaccine schedule is finally under review. So here's what she said.
So a couple of weeks ago, Secretary Kennedy did a clean sweep and got rid of the 17 members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices that serves the CDC and makes vaccine recommendations. He brought in 7 much more neutral, more open-minded, real scientists, and they met for 2 days earlier this week. And they basically set a really new tone. They said, we're going to look at the whole schedule. We're not going to talk about anti-vax and pro-vax, and we're going to debate things. And so they actually took 2 votes. One was really exciting to people who've been doing this for a long time. They said that they're not going to have the mercury-containing preservative thimerosal in any flu shots next year. That is major. It's taken 30 years to get there. That wasn't expected on the agenda, but that was fantastic. And then the other vote they took was for an RSV vaccine for babies. It's one that has a lot more issues with it, but they did approve that by a 5-2 vote. They approved the thimerosal decision by a 6-1 vote. But it's a new era, Steve. The important thing is that I think they're going to look at the whole schedule. They're going to look at things like the birth dose of the hepatitis B vaccine. They're going to look at the timing of the measles, mumps, rubella shot. So those are things that are really significant. It's a new era.
So it sounds like they're just bringing science back to these scientists' institutions. They're actually bringing real science, real debate, real decorum, which is what science is. You're supposed to question the science. You're supposed to question data analysis and do these different hypotheses and then analyze the data accordingly. That's what you're supposed to do in science. And that has been non-existent for many years because of the corruption with the pharmaceutical industry, with food industry, with Big Agra and Big Oil and military contractors. Like, science has just dissipated itself. And now it just seems like we're actually bringing science back. So that's pretty impressive. And for those who aren't aware, and she mentioned that just briefly, that yes, one of the first shots you get as a child, at least in America, I don't know if it's the same in Canada, but at least in America, one of the first doses, one of the first vaccines you get as a young infant is for hepatitis. And that just alarms me. I'm not a parent. I don't have children, but that alarms me just as an adult, thinking that, okay, you're giving a small toddler a hepatitis shot, that the only way that child can get hepatitis is through sexual transmission or dirty needles. Like, how is that possible? How is that possible? How is that scientific? And you see individuals that, get their children inoculated with this, and they have no questions. They have no concerns. Well, it's the first shot. Well, do you realize what that first shot is? Do you know what hepatitis is? Do you know how to contract hepatitis? Why would you need a newborn to get a dose of this shot when they're clearly not going to be around dirty needles or contracted sexually? Like, it's insane. It's insane. So, kudos on RFK. Kudos on the CDC. This is what gives me a bit of hope in the Trump administration. And I know I've said that I'm pretty much running low on hope. Faith in people is just slowly going away. But you have these moments. You have these moments. And I thank God that these moments do exist. And I wish this understanding, I wish these moments caught on to our side of the conversation, caught on to the Canadian discourse when it comes to medical advice and sciences. Because as you know, we just got a new health minister. So Theresa Tam is out. Theresa Tam is gone. And they bring in this woman. So this is the new health director, or the chief, chief health officer of Canada. This woman, Nancy Hamzwani. And people have already commented on how she dresses, and, she's of Muslim faith, and obviously that leads to jihadism. You know how it goes. I really don't care about her appearance. I really don't care about her background, her religious take. That's personal. That's personal. I couldn't care less about that. But what I do care, and what people should really care about, is that this is the top of the chain in health services in Canada. What is her rhetoric? What is her statement? What is her agenda? Is she focused on natural immunity? Is she focused on natural supplements like vitamins and hydroxychloroquine? Is she focused on that and healthy fitness and exercise? Or is she focused on the pharmaceutical lobby, which is what Theresa Tam was about? Who exactly is she going to represent in this argument? Well, we have a bit of a taste of this, as Ryan Gertson points out, from 2017. The now acting president of Health Canada, Nancy Hamzwani, talking about climate change. So the health director, not talking about, our food supply, not talking about chemicals in our water, not talking about, the vaccines, not even talking about the CDC getting rid of poisonous chemicals in their vaccines, which I think that should be global news right there. That should be worldwide information. but she's going to talk about climate change. She's bringing up the lie that Canada is warming at 2 to 3 times the rate as anywhere else. She's happy 90% believe the lie, but is disappointed 10% do not. She also says, more times than anyone I've ever heard. So, this is what kind of worries me. It's not the appearance. It's not, her religious background. That's neither here or there. But when you're the health director, when you're the top of the chain in health services in this country, you think the conversation, you think your agenda and approach would be about, healthy eating, making sure that our nation is healthy, there's nutrition out there, that we're getting exercise, that we're, getting vitamin D from sunlight and not injecting ourselves with concoctions made by dark laboratories with dark money. But this is what she says about climate change.
Survey at this point in time. How many people have heard the sentence, Canada's climate has changed at twice the rate, the global rate, 3 times in the north? How many people have heard that? So typically, and this is a typical audience, about 90% of people have heard that sentence that has come from Canada's Changing Climate Report, but that's an indicator of the extent to which others have deemed that to be the truth.
And notice how when she asked that question, she asked, did you hear that story? So it's not 90% believe. They believe the story of climate change. It's that, 90% heard, meaning that they watched the mainstream television, they heard it on some news program, and they just heard that. Doesn't mean they actually believe it. Doesn't mean they actually know that, hey, a lot of the institutions are causing the pollution, but you're wagging the finger at individuals for causing less pollution than ever before. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that's its own separate conversation. Why is the new acting health minister talking about climate change when we're finally getting details about all these cases of adverse side effects from vaccines? Wouldn't that be the top priority of your agenda right now, considering that's mainstream news at this point? You think that'd be a concern for her, but it's not.
Earlier, we were. Someone was asking me, "Do you face skeptics in your role?" And we do. So, despite the fact that we find 90% on average of people believing that and having the confidence in the science, there's not quite 90%, but a significant proportion of Canadians and global citizens who do not believe that and inform us of that view based on the number of dockets I sign off in a day indicating otherwise. So part of our responsibility, I think, in terms of the context in which we operate and live is making sure that we communicate at every possible opportunity what the facts are, and engaging with people that we don't necessarily are normal interlocutors in order to be able to move forward effectively on the issue. So I guess those would be some of the reflections on the issue.
So it's not even a conversation about climate change. It's more of a conversation of, there's a lot of people that don't believe this and a lot of skeptics out there. What are we going to do about that? Funny how it all comes down to censorship. It's not actually about solving problems or actually looking at it directly or scientifically or having analysis. It's just about censorship. We need people to believe these things. We need people to get into the line. Even if it's only 10%. We need that 10%. You gotta be fully committed. Wow. So that right there is the new health director of Health Canada, the replacement for Theresa Tam, and boy, it is not a step up. Let's just say that. It is not a step up. And by the way, If you look at the background of her, she doesn't even have real medical degrees. She doesn't have a background in medicine, but she does have a background in chemistry. So really, it sounds like she's one of these people that may have worked as a pharmacist or a lab technician somewhere and just got the position because she's willing to toe the line for the pharmaceutical industry. And, you know, God forbid if America, RFK Jr., Dr. J. Bhattacharya, and any of those people come to a conclusion, a scientific conclusion, that harmful chemicals should not be in vaccines, or, hey, did you hear Global News is reporting all these cases of adverse side effects? Maybe we should look into that. Maybe we should be investigating and putting more government action into that. No. Let's talk about how people are skeptical of the climate change initiative that is also being skewed in one direction. Just what an unbelievable mess this has become. And I feel so bad. I feel so sorry for those individuals. And I know the feeling. Because I got, at the beginning of COVID, I didn't know what was going on. I fell through the motions, and I understand the frustration. I'm angered. And people, disagree with me. I've lost friendship. I lost contact with them based on this and other disagreements. And I'm willing to at least apologize for my faults. I'm willing to at least stick my neck out and, put my ego aside. But the people that, got it wrong and vilified me for at least looking into the data, they're not going to apologize. Which, frankly, I don't really need their apology, because it just shows the lack of friendship we had in the beginning of this. That our friendship was merely more a mirage than it was a true connection of individuals.